Hi everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we're back today because we finished up our second of our spooky Trek series here with Melissa Crandall's Shell Game, which was a fantastically fun and spooky, surprising, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised, bones-centered book, which I really enjoyed. So, I guess before we get too into it, let's talk about the fantastic cover here that we have by, of course, the prolific cover artist, Mr. Keith Birdsong, the late great Keith Birdsong. So we will get that a little bit bigger so we can enjoy that together here. As you can see, they've been trapped without power. The USS Enterprise crew must race to solve the mystery of a lifeless Romulan space station. Anyway, look at this fantastic cover with Bones and Kirk in their movie outfits here, and you can see the space station here in the back. Well done. He always does a great job with all these covers, so nothing bad you can say about Mr. Keith Birdsong's work, that's for sure. So anyway, Shell Game, the only book by Melissa Crandall, who briefly played a part in the LA Graph kind of team of Trek writers, and helped write the Ice Trap, I think it said here. But anyway, Melissa, it says here in the book about books, kind of came onto it not so much as like the biggest Trek fan, even though she was into it, but as an opportunity to kind of do something, and write something different. And she was always a fan of DeForest Kelley, and that kind of plays out here in this book, which was a lot of fun. So, let's read from the back here. Shell Game. While on a routine mission to retrieve a research drone for recycling, the USS Enterprise encounters a Romulan space station adrift within Federation borders. Exploring the lifeless station, the crew finds ghostly apparitions flitting at the edges of sight. Soon, the USS Enterprise is inexplicably without power. Captain Kirk and his crew must now solve the mystery of the strange apparitions before the starship suffers the station's fate. The situation becomes desperate when a Romulan warship arrives looking for the station, and the Romulan commander accuses the Federation of treachery. Before Captain Kirk can save the Starship Enterprise from complete destruction, he must avoid becoming drawn into a deadly shell game, a game that will leave no winners and no survivors. Shell Game by Melissa Crandall. No. All right, anyway, this was a great book. It was recommended. I was looking up, scary Star Trek books, and this was one of the ones that came up most when I did that search, right? And it really did hit the spot. So it's the end of the month here. You've got another, 6 days or so in Halloween season. So if you would like a spooky Star Trek book to read, this one definitely fits the bill. It's kind of got like a little bit of everything. It's got ghost stories. Literally starts out with Scotty telling a ghost story, a spooky abandoned station, lights going out, finding, creepy dead bodies in strange places, and of course just this kind of general feeling of unease that kind of persists throughout the book too, which is really well done. I mean, it fits the bill of, like, if you were to, I don't know, you could almost make this into a perfectly good Star Trek horror movie. I mean, it fits just perfectly for that. So, very well done. And again, Bones takes center stage here. So, and one of the things that also was kind of interesting about this too is this is kind of one of the first TOS books that I've read where they start talking about, maybe the captain shouldn't go on the away mission, which kind of leads to, I guess Bones taking the center stage here. Spock and Chekhov also have some interesting scenes, and then Kirk has his own things going on the ship. But the majority of the action does take place on this abandoned station as things kind of progress and things get worse and worse. And then you kind of learn the mystery of what's happening, why all this, what's going wrong, basically. And then the story expands out from there and becomes, a little bit of like a thriller, and there's a lot going on. And it's, like I said, out of all the Trek books I've read, definitely has the most, spooky season theme going on. And I was reading the book about books here. She didn't say anything about that going in, but I really feel that that's maybe, I don't know, maybe the mode she was in. Maybe when she was writing it, it was that time of the year, and she was feeling a little bit spooky. But anyway, I had a great time with it. And again, if you're looking for something to kind of close out this season, this is a good one to do it with. Especially if you are a Bones fan, you're getting some extra Bones love here in this one. So this book, let's see, let's talk the facts here. This book was published in 1993, and of course is a pocket book number 63 in the TOS series, and I started reading this on the 14th, and I finished it just today, mere minutes ago, today on the 25th of October. So without further ado, we'll dive right into the spoilerish talk, so if you don't want to be spoiled, we'll talk to you later. Anyway, Shell Game, this was a lot of fun. Starts out immediately with setting the stage, right? Scotty is in like the rec room area, and he's got everyone around, and he's got them hypnotized with this story of the Mary Celeste, where they find this ship and everybody's gone, but like the food is still there on the table. So he basically just kind of gets everyone wound up and everybody like a little bit spooked. And then they get the message that they detect the station, off in the distance or whatever. So they got to go to stations, and then they come up on this station, that station right there. And no power, nothing going on, but they can kind of tell that it's, I think they can tell that it's a Romulan station. They're close to the Romulan neutral zone, so like something could have happened where the station would have drifted, over the neutral zone. So very interesting. They know they've got to go aboard and check it out, right? And this is when it comes in where they bring up the new directive from Starfleet that away teams, should not be led by the captain. The captain needs to stay on the ship. And they actually kind of lay that on Kirk here, and Kirk actually agrees to stay on the ship. And the away team then is made up of Bones, Spock, and Chekhov, and then they each have their own security officers. There's Haley, Leno, and I forget the first guy, but we'll talk about him. He came from a boy, it'd be great if I could give you his name, right? I was looking for it too, and it's weird that you can't. Markson, there. I couldn't find it for forever, and there I found it just now, just by flipping. Anyway, Markson, Leno, and Haley are the three security officers. Haley and Leno, assigned to follow Bones, Chekhov, and Spock on this mission here, this away mission. So they beam over to the station. Immediately, as soon as they beam over, boom, they lose contact with the ship. No way, the communications are completely dead, and the ship also loses contact with them. Not only communications, but just the ability to even maintain a transporter lock. So immediately they're thrown into this very scary situation, right? And they're on this spooky station trying to find their way, basically, right? So they start going around the halls, and they're already like a little bit spooked. And they come across their first dead body, and it's this young Romulan woman who apparently died from running into the wall. Again, very spooky, right? That's something like classic out of a horror movie. Scared so much they ran into a wall and died or something. So it's setting the tone. It's doing really well doing that. So they keep looking around the space station, and then they come across this kind of like the recreation area, the shopping area, the living area of the station. This big kind of central mass, right? And it's here they find this auditorium. And when they open the door, they're hit with this terrible smell, right? And they go in there, and basically the whole complement of the station is all gathered in there. And when Bones scans them, he finds they've been dead for, weeks, basically, at this point. And they all died of hypothermia, which is kind of strange because it's not cold enough in the station for them to die of hypothermia. So now we've got this little mystery going on, too. Like, what's happening with this hypothermia? And Bones gets a little bit curious too, and he starts scanning them to see, if there's anything going on with them. And it turns out that their body temperatures are slowly lowering as well. So, back over to the Enterprise, trouble happening over there. Kirk gets onto a turbo lift, and power drain happens, and the turbo lift kind of crashes around, and he hurts his ribs. But now the Enterprise is starting to get affected by this power drain, and then the people on the Enterprise as well are starting to feel the effects of that with their body temperatures going down. So you've got trouble on both ends here, and then when they're down in the wreck area, Spock is able to access this one of the consoles or something using the portable generator they brought. He brings up a map quickly, and he sees where they need to go. They need to climb up. They're able to take stairs up to a certain point, but then they're going to have to get into a turbo lift shaft and climb up to the bridge level. And this is when the second really big, for me it was a scary thought, having to climb up into this turbo lift shaft and climb up several levels on this ladder. It's almost completely dark except for their hand lamps, and Markson, the security officer ensign guy, he is a bit of a superstitious person. The culture he came from believes in ghosts. They believe in all that, so he's already kind of spooked and is already a little bit freaked out. And then coming to this turbo lift shaft, it reminds him of something from kind of a story, I guess, maybe from his religion or something, that these demons would come up out of this shaft. So he's already freaked out, and he's I think he's on the bottom. So they're all climbing up the shaft, right? When all of a sudden they hear this giant crashing noise, and a turbo lift is coming down the shaft. So they all have to kind of squeeze in and get in. But as the thing comes down, the air gusts and blows this Markson off, and he gets sucked down to the bottom of the thing and dies. And that's our first casualty of the away team, right? Terrible way to go, too. He just because he was so afraid, and he was kind of thinking that this was going to be his end, and then it really was. So, and of course that really affects the rest of the away team as well, his loss. But they have to press on. So they continue to press on. They find their way up to the bridge. And then in the bridge, that's when they find a couple more dead Romulans up there too. Probably the commanders of the station, right? So then they are able to patch into something there on the bridge, learn a little bit more. Spock is able to get into the station logs a little bit and actually kind of learn a little bit more about what the Romulans did and what was going on. But Bones notices that Spock is affected even more by this energy drain than they are. Possibly because his physiology is closer to the Romulans or something, right? So they realize now that they have to go down to engineering. That's the source of the problem. Back on the Enterprise, things aren't getting any better. Just the power is draining worse and worse and worse, and eventually they're going to be left into a point where they're not going to have enough power to get away. So they have to start coming up with some way to get away. And this is when Spock is able to actually reach out to them. And the timing on all this, I'm telling you, is probably not completely correct, but I'm getting the general idea, the flow of the story just fine. So anyway, Spock, he figures out that this power drain is caused by something in the station. Something is physically draining the power from the station, from the ship, from the people, from everything, feeding on this energy, right? But he realizes that this new energy from the Enterprise, it's different from the Romulan energy they've been used to. So if they can shield the Enterprise engines, basically, with the crew of the Enterprise, by basically kind of cramming everyone in there, that would give them enough, shielding to generate power so they could get enough impulse to push themselves away. But, as spoiled by the back cover, which I did not read, we've got guests now. A Romulan bird of prey comes in. This Captain Tenzin or something like that, he comes in, and he is accusing Kirk, of course, of taking the station, murdering the inhabitants, and all that nonsense. Kirk is saying, well, your station is here. We didn't do anything. We found it this way. But this guy knows that Kirk is out of power. So he kind of plays with him for a little bit. And then he's like, well, I was just going to kill you anyway, basically. And he tries to open fire, and boom, they fall into the same trap that the Enterprise did, that the station did. They're now being drained of their power. So, all right, so back to the station. They did try to beam in a crew, Romulan away team. However, since their power went out, most of the away team turned into goo. However, one person did make it through, but the team there on the ship is able to subdue him. So now they have him, and they can kind of like pump him for some information about what's going on. And this is, they eventually do make it down to engineering, okay? And this is when they find the whole source of the trouble, which is this new life form, which is gigantic and is kind of feeding right on the main core of the thing, right? So, and it's gotten so big, like at this point, it seems like it couldn't even get out of the station. It came in small, and then grew up by like sucking away all the energy from everybody. So at first they try to phaser it to see if they can't get it off that way. However, that results in the second death of the story here. Young Ensign Haley, who had her phaser turned up to high, which she shouldn't have done, that caused the creature to kind of reach out, latch onto her, and suck her into her body, its body, and then kind of sucked all the life out of her, and now she's dead. McCoy reaches in and pulls her out, tries to save her, to no avail. So that's 2 members down. The third member of the away team, the security member, Leno, she gets left behind because she gets stuck in the turbo lift shaft. And another very scary scene where they're coming back down the shaft, right? And then there's a turbo lift kind of crammed in the entrance. So they have to go through the top of it and then squeeze through the doors. And at any time, this thing could go boom, falling down, right? So they all go through with Bones and Leno at the last. And Bones is kind of freaking out, and he's going slow going through. He finally makes it through. Leno goes in, and right at the last moment, the thing kind of goes down a little bit more, and now she's stuck and she can't get out. She's like, leave me behind. They have to leave her behind, and they move on to the engine room to find the creature and all that. So now they're down to just the 3. However, Spock is basically out of commission. The energy drain is affecting him majorly at this point, and there's not much that he can do. So at this point, he kind of becomes luggage for everybody else. So, and again, it's a Bones book, right? It is a huge Bones book. He takes center stage here easily and does a great job with it. So, at the end, it's a very good ending, an interesting ending. The Romulan ship, realizing kind of what's happened, sets the station's self-destruct to go. So now we're on a countdown. There's like 20 minutes and the station's going to blow. They got to try to figure out a way to get them out of there and also get the Enterprise far enough away. So Scotty's doing his thing to get the engines charged. The whole crew is gathered down there, surrounding the engine to kind of shield it from this creature, right? And when the Romulan ship tries to get away, Kirk grabs on with a tractor beam just to make sure that they can't get away as well, right? So, and they're continually building up powers. The powers counting down. On the station, the Romulan prisoner they captured claims to know where the escape pods are at. They run to the escape pods. When they get there, they can't get through. The door is shut. The thing is vacuum sealed. He says, well, follow me. We can go to another set of escape pods. He leads them up a set of stairs to another room. And then he laughs at them as he says, you Federations are so easily fooled. There's the other escape pods were just around the corner. Now we're just going to sit here and you can die. To which Chekhov decks him and actually punches him so hard that this guy flies against the wall. So, good on you, Chekhov. You showed that Romulan what for there. But anyway, now they're basically waiting for death. So, and back on the Enterprise, they are just barely there. Like, Scotty's calling for impulse power in like 15 minutes, but they got 10 minutes until the explosion goes off. So, but Scotty does work some kind of miracle. He's able to. It's interesting the way this book ends. That they don't actually solve the problem. The problem kind of solves itself, right? So they're able to start making their way off at impulse power. Kirk, in a grand gesture, actually reverses the tractor beam and gives the Romulan a little push so they can also make it away. The timer continues to count down. Kirk thinks that he's basically lost his friends, that they're gone. Bones goes back to Bones on the station, counting down the final seconds. When it hits 0, nothing happens. All of a sudden, they're hit with this giant flash of light. They look out the windows, and what do they see? This kind of phosphorescent algae in space. And basically what happened is the creature absorbed the energy of the detonation and then used that to reproduce. And then also that kind of disconnected it from the station. So now all of a sudden, power comes back online. Everything's looking good again. Kirk gets in touch with them. They beam them away. Bing, bang, boom. End of the story. So I liked it, though. I liked how kind of everything was lost and they were all just waiting for the end. But then, due to just something completely out of their control, they were saved. And in like typical Star Trek fashion too, which is great, it was like a whole new life form creating new life. Kind of reminding me of that episode of where like the Enterprise gives birth to a baby. There's so much good stuff. I don't know. Anyway, great story, great Halloween Star Trek book. I would recommend it to anyone who wants to read a good Bones book as well. Falls right into that category. As always, everybody, thanks for hanging out, listening to me talk about books for 20 minutes. We'll be back soon to talk about more fun Star Trek stuff. Live long and prosper. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.